And here we are finally discussing mock 21's VARC section. So I think after writing so many mocks, you must have been getting this feeling of being a veteran, and by now, even more importantly, I expect that your test taking strategy has started developing nicely. You're probably firming it up by now. So let us go ahead, discuss this particular mock, the VARC section, and learn some valuable lessons through that. So let's get going with our very first passage of the mock, which essentially can be divided into three categories. Okay, the very first one introduces two mega trends: rise of China, hollowing out of American industry. So the second paragraph talks about the rise of China. The third one talks about hollowing out. So elaborates upon these two themes. But then the moment you move on, it says that the two trends contribute to the sense that America is in decline, but then there is this change. But it is beginning to look as if those two mega trends are reversing. So the problem with China, and at the same time an uptick in the American manufacturing as stated in the next paragraph. And thereafter the third segment, the lessons that we can draw. So here is the first lesson, the second lesson, and then you eventually have the third lesson, right? And then of course the last paragraph is a conclusion. It says, it acknowledges at least that the politics is dysfunctional, social fabric is in tatters, but somehow our economy is among the strongest in the world, right? So it basically summarizes whatever has gone in the passage so far. So let's go ahead and look at the very first question. In the passage, the author is making the claim that, okay, A, America is outpacing China in manufacturing activity. See, what the passage tells us is that America's manufacturing activity has witnessed a resurgence. It is on its way to outpacing China, but it is not there yet. And the moment you look at this, you can very easily eliminate option A as well as option D. So that leaves you with B and C. B says America's political and economic systems are more durable than those of authoritarian regimes. Okay, yeah, in a way, yes. But then let's compare it with C. Let's look at elimination anyway. Laissez-faire economics does not work. Laissez-faire economics is where the government does not intervene. Now the passage specifically talks about centralized decision making of China and how it is leading into problems. It is also giving us the example of Germany and how they have led into problem, whereas in America, where you do not have that authoritarian regime, where you do not have that centralized control, that economy is on a rebound. So to say that laissez-faire does not work anymore will actually be false according to the passage, and thus C can also be eliminated. That anyway leaves us with B as our best answer choice for question number 1. Let's look at question number 2. So the author has given the example of the wanted German model to illustrate the point that, so in that context, we are talking about centralized decision making, authoritarian regimes, and we are saying that, okay, China is on a downfall, and even that famed German model. In fact, we can go back to the passage, have a look at it quickly. See, excessive state interference of China, even the wanted German model, one of the great success stories of 20th century, is showing its age. Okay, so it has become stagnant. It is no longer as robust and full of vitality as it once was. So we basically giving this example to say that the centralized process or the state interference is not the way forward, and A is irrelevant, B states the opposite, C is not the idea which is being supported by that example. It is the example itself. D is the idea which it supports, and that is why the answer here should be option D. Let's have a look at question number 3. Since 2011, wage growth has accelerated more for high school graduates than for college graduates. What can be interpreted? So see, the key thing is the wages for both of these are accelerating, But for high school graduates, the acceleration is higher. So high school graduate would typically get what kind of job? Imagine. They will mostly contribute to the labor force. They are going to what we typically call the working class, and because the wages are accelerating more rapidly here, it tells us that the working class, there is a greater number of working class jobs. There is more demand for people with that kind of skill sets. And that idea gets captured in option C. More demand for working class blue collar jobs than for white collar ones. White collar are typically your supervisory or managerial jobs, the kind of jobs that educated individuals would usually aspire to. Okay, so C captures that idea correctly, therefore that is going to be our answer for question number 3. Let me give you the next question now. So none of the following statements can be inferred from the passage except. So basically we are looking for which of the following can be inferred on the basis of the information supplied in the passage. So let us check. A. It is unlikely that China would succeed in surpassing America in GDP terms in short term. A lot of terms. So there is this part in the passage that says a forecast from Bloomberg Economics Now projects that the size of the Chinese economy will not successfully surpass the size of the American economy, despite its vastly greater population. Moreover, look at the 4th paragraph where we are talking about the problems with China. So if we combine these two things, we can definitely label A as true. Okay, B, free market democracies can yield great economic returns in the short term. Well, they do give you returns, but whether they do it in the short term or not is something that we cannot determine on the basis of the passage. So we'd actually call it can't say. C, China may yet recover from its economic, it may not, we do not have enough data to go by this. And therefore, so all we know is that it is in slump. The future of Chinese economy has not been talked about. So we'd say can't say. D, the trend of outsourcing manufacturing jobs is yet to reach its full potential. We don't know. America did outsource, but then there's a resurgence in the manufacturing jobs in America, which means that they are not not getting outsourced right now. So whether that outsourcing has reached its potential or not is not something that we can determine. This in fact looks to be probably false. It feels that the peak has already arrived, but on the whole I think we should still call it can't say. So because option A turns out to be the one which is true, for question number 4 we should go ahead and choose A as our answer as a result. So that's your passage 1 of mock 21.